related here. But back in 2013, voluntarily and with some intentionality, Hoag entered into a formal affiliation with St. Joseph's Health System right here in Orange County. And while no assets changed hands and there was no money exchanged, we became affiliated for the purposes of improving the health of our community. And the intent was population health. The intent was to transform how healthcare was delivered in Orange County with a larger scale and with more resources, and with the thought that we could be better together and actually really turn things around for individuals in our community. And what I will tell you is that that is not what has come to fruition. Number one, population health did not ever get off the ground. That relationship never made it out of the boardrooms and the conversation pieces. And instead, what we saw is a slow and methodical chipping away of what we had understood to be protected by the conditions set by the Attorney General back in 2013. And the Attorney General put in place basically a 20-year conditions and protections of all aspects of women's reproductive care, with the exception of abortion care. So over the last 8 years, we have been able to provide comprehensive women's health, but without providing abortion care. We knew that was going to be a trade-off, but at the time we thought that since the vast majority of abortions do not require hospitalization and they are not hospital-based, as Tabitha mentioned, the majority actually are medication abortions within the first 12 weeks of pregnancy. We figured that this was a reasonable trade-off for population health. But now we find ourselves where physicians are frustrated, the community is frustrated, there's brand confusion, and we do not believe that it's possible for us to provide the ever-changing and rapidly diversifying needs of our community. And Hoag exists. Our mission is to provide the highest quality healthcare to the communities we serve. And the communities includes the diverse population of women. It includes the LGBTQ plus population. It includes the infertile population. It includes all things we have not even contemplated or considered maybe state-of-the-art healthcare. And just in the last 8 years, I think the majority of you know that healthcare is advancing at a phenomenal pace. And with these changes, it is our full intent, especially within women's health, to be leading edge and cutting edge and best practice, and not frozen in time based on application of ethical and religious directives or religious-based restrictions on medical conditions or what should be standard and reasonable care for women of all ages and of all life stages. So where we have found ourselves now, and what the community is saying is, what can we do to help? So you entered into this marriage, you knew that it was in perpetuity, you knew you had protections for 20 years through 2032, and now you're asking for a divorce. How can we help? Because we do understand that 1 in 6 hospitalized patients are receiving care in a Catholic hospital. 1 in 6 beds in the state of California are under Catholic, I guess, control or ownership, or under the ethical and religious directives that come with the Catholic health system. In Southern California, and actually in Orange County, it's closer to 1 in 3 beds. And that march is continuing with, there's conversations about the UC system forming together with Dignity. There's conversations about Kaiser and Providence forming a new hospital, creating a new hospital in the near future. And at this point, we find ourselves in a long-term relationship where we are an unwilling partner and we are looking and have sought legal help to disaffiliate. And we need the assistance and the engagement of the Attorney General. So if you were to ask, what can our community do to help in this disaffiliation, or the hashtag free Hoag, it would be number one, listen to the physicians, listen to the providers. We actually have an upcoming event, not we, but the Orange County Coalition of Women have a women's forum on October 25th at 6 p.m., where a panel of physicians, in addition to a local politician, Cotty Petrie Norris, and others, will be discussing the Hoag disaffiliation, or the Hoag journey to freedom. The other thing that can be done is there's a letter campaign, or a letter signing campaign with the Attorney General that is soon to be launched. And that is intended to help raise more awareness and have a call to action of wanting to thwart any further erosion of women's reproductive rights right here in Orange County, in Southern California, and in the state of California. So we know that we have the opportunity, while we're talking about erosion of rights across the country and in many states, we have the opportunity to expand women's health. And we have the wherewithal, we have the means, we have the resources, we have philanthropic support, and we have a very engaged research community and physician healthcare community that can be leading edge and cutting edge at improving the family planning and contraceptive needs for women in our community. So I'm gonna stop there. I see that there were a number of questions that followed Dr. Harkin's presentation, and I'd like to give time for any questions that you might have.
Okay, Aviva, are you going to ask questions, or is Alex?
Yeah, I'll do it. But Gwen, I didn't know if you wanted to share the event details first or not. Either way, I saw someone put in the chat, please share the event details that Dr. Brooks mentioned. We will be doing so. Thank you so much, Dr. Brooks, for really bringing this issue home for us, or extremely close to home, and letting us know what we can do. I see a question in the chat, and by the way, Dr. Harkin, if you do want to answer any of the questions that were put in the chat after your presentation live, please feel free to do so. I know you've been very carefully answering them in the chat, so thank you for doing that, but feel free to speak up as well. But first, for Dr. Brooks, one question is, can you give us a few examples of the ethical religious directives that you mentioned that impact women's reproductive rights that Catholic hospitals like Providence are demanding that doctors adhere to?
So abortion would be number one. Any long contraception, so access to long-term contraception, oral contraceptives, the intrauterine device, permanent sterilization with tubal ligation, vasectomy, not being able to perform cesarean hysterectomy in the event of, in order to prevent excessive blood loss or hemorrhage, potentially life-threatening hemorrhage in a woman who has an abnormal placenta attached to the uterus, in vitro fertilization, stem cell research, end of life care, gender conversion, or excuse me, gender affirming surgeries, embryo preservation and then transplantation, oocyte preservation. The list goes on and on. And so if you ask who is affected by some of these, it should be, what we should be saying is, it should be fertility for all. It should be full spectrum, the full gamut of contraception for anyone who wants it, whether it's the pill, the patch, the ring, the IUD, and it should be seamless, unencumbered, unthwarted access to basic elemental health care.
That is quite a shocking list, as Sue Kemp said. So pretty much everything is affected. We have two questions that are in the same vein. So per Dr. Harkin's presentation, California is a haven state. We have abortion protected in our Constitution. So they ask if the right to an abortion is protected in our Constitution, how is it that Catholic hospital systems are still allowed to ban abortion?
I don't know that I have the answer to that, but I think independent organizations and religious organizations, I mean, think of Hobby Lobby, and insurance companies can decide not to cover contraceptive benefits or not to cover abortion care, as long as there is access within the state. And the argument would be, I saw the question, why hasn't the Attorney General been involved? There's not an access problem per se, because thank goodness we have Planned Parenthood, right? We have UCI Women's Options. We have Family Planning Associates. We have physicians that have obstetrician gynecologists that have devoted their lives to providing the full gamut of contraceptive and abortion care and family planning care and management of high-risk pregnancies with anomalous fetuses and genetic syndromes that are not compatible with life or not compatible with a productive or healthy life. And so I don't think we're in fear of losing access per se within our state. It's just so restricted and limited. And for women to have to fight and argue and cajole, and for physicians to have to find workarounds to provide what is currently available by law and as a basic fundamental piece of healthcare.
For that thorough response. Gwen, do we need to move on? Do we have time for one more question?
I think we need to move on. I think,
okay.
Allison, your presentation, your verbal presentation was incredible. So enlightening to many people on this call, and the list of the ERDs and how that impacts people right here in Orange County. I think most of us are shocked and appalled by this, which is the result we're looking for tonight. Now we want action. So I dropped it in the chat, but the very next thing that anyone can do on this, and Allison, you want to share more about it? I'm going to share my screen with the graphic. Let me grab that.
Yes, on October 25th at 6 p.m. via Zoom, Cotty Petrie Norris, as well as 4 physicians, Dr. Jeff Illick, he's an OBGYN, Dr. Sharon Moyeri, a fertility specialist, Dr. Grace Lazinski, Chief Quality Officer at Hoag, and myself. That's right. I forgot. I'll be there too. We'll be talking about Hoag's struggle for women's reproductive health independence.
And our goal is for people to take action, to write the letters. And I think that, and many other things that you're going to be suggesting more on that on October 25th. So this was just the beginning of the conversation for everyone who wants to get more involved and find out what else you can do. There's a lot of groups that are behind this, including our Wigan Beach Dem Club, to support this action to end Hoag's affiliation with Providence, and how important it is to women and actually everyone's health in Orange County.
Right.
Great. Anything else you want to add, Allison?
No, thank you for having Dr. Harkin and I this evening. And it's been great to get to know all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all being there at the march too. All those pictures were incredible.
It was so inspiring to see so many people.
It really was.
Yeah, it was great.
It really was.
Well, thank you all for all you do. We're going to move on to, I'm going to stop my screen share, and we will move on to introducing our next guest. And Peggy Wolf, can you introduce Sadaf for us?
Yeah, welcome to. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm really excited to introduce Sadaf Rahmani, and we want to welcome her because she's the new Public Affairs Director at Planned Parenthood of Orange and San Bernardino counties. In her role, she works to protect and advance people's sexual and reproductive rights through grassroots organizing, public education, strategic partnerships, and political campaigning. Sadaf has spent most of her career on policy and grassroots organizing and was a legislative assistant for former Congressman Keith Ellison. Most recently, she was the Director of Special Projects at the Office of the Minnesota Attorney General, where she was in charge of creating spaces for community members and organizations, elected officials, and academics to come together to find solutions to issues that impact a person's ability to afford their lives and live with dignity and respect. Most notably, she led the Minnesota Attorney General's Advisory Task Force on lowering pharmaceutical drug prices, which resulted in an award-winning report that continues to serve as a blueprint for state and federal legislators looking for innovative ways to lower the cost of prescription drugs. Sadaf received her MA degree in International Relations and Diplomacy from SOAS, University of London, and her bachelor's in International Business and Political Science from the University of St. Thomas in Minnesota. She just recently moved to Orange County from Minneapolis, Minnesota. She's going to have a great first winter here, isn't she? So I want to welcome Sadaf. We welcome you to present to our club.
Thank you so much, Peggy. And yes, I'm certainly looking forward to the winters here. Thank you all. It's a pleasure to be here with you on this virtual space. Thank you, Gwen, for inviting me to be a part of this very important discussion with a very esteemed speakers. And so as Dr. Harkin and Dr. Brooks highlighted before me, this past month and a half have been really tough for us given the new Texas law. And to make matters even more urgent, we're also dealing with this upcoming Supreme Court Mississippi case that might very effectively dismantle Roe. This is really the loudest alarm yet that our abortion rights are in grave danger. The abortion restriction in Texas and likely soon in a number of other states will make the care we provide at Planned Parenthood health centers in California more critical than ever. The California Planned Parenthood affiliates are already working with Governor Newsom about how the state of California can support our efforts and relieve us of potential liabilities. At PPOSPC specifically, we will do all that we can to continue to meet the needs of our out-of-state patients. But what really makes me hopeful and encouraged is that we're also resilient individually and collectively. We fought this fight again and again. It's not the first time, right? But the movement to protect access to abortion needs all of us again. So I want to talk to you about 6 specific ways you can take action. These actions and supplementary information can all be viewed on our website, saveronow.org. So the first action I'd like to talk to you about is to educate your community. Really be a spokesperson on social media and in your communities by sharing the facts regarding the new Texas law and the Mississippi case and their impact on access to abortion across the country. Also educate your elected officials and let them know how strongly you feel about access to abortion and what that right really means for you. On our Save Roe Now website, you can download fact sheets, we've got talking points and a social media toolkit to really provide you with all you need to be an informed spokesperson in your community. The second action I like to highlight tonight is to support federal legislation. On September 24th, actually, the US House of Representatives passed the Women's Health Protection Act, which establishes a statutory right to provide and receive abortion care. Even though it's likely to fail in the Senate, it does mark a historic victory for abortion right. And we do need to thank our supportive Congress members for their support of this bill and really ask them to continue to support other legislative efforts to protect the right to access abortion throughout the country. You can go to actforwomen.org to receive the support you need to advocate for this legislation. Action 3 is easy, right? It's to register to vote. Make sure your family and friends are registered to vote. In order for California to help ensure access for other states, we must first ensure that we have a governor and state legislature committed to expanding, not banning, access to abortion care. And here in California, we're already preparing to meet the needs of patients who will come to us from out of states. Therefore, California's status as a reproductive freedom state is really crucial to maintain. And really the best way to do that is to help ensure that our communities are registered to vote, which is very easy to do online on the California Secretary of State's website. The fourth action is to engage your city and county leaders. There are actually a number of cities across the country that are now adopting ordinances outlawing abortions and declaring their city a so-called sanctuary city for the unborn. You can do a similar thing by asking your city council and or your county board of supervisor to declare their jurisdictions a defender for reproductive freedom. Just recently, the San Diego Board of Supervisors declared San Diego County a champion of reproductive freedom and welcoming all those seeking to fully exercise reproductive rights and access to safe legal abortion. If you're interested in taking this action, please contact our public affairs team so that we can provide you with all the guidance and support you need to be successful. Action number 5 is to contribute to our abortion aid fund. We actually created an abortion aid fund to help ensure that our out-of-state patients get access to the care they need. We're increasing our capacity to serve out-of-state patients, and really with the list of extreme state laws growing and the threat of Roe collapsing, there's no doubt in my mind that the number of out-of-state patients seeking care in California will continue to grow. Your contribution will ensure someone's ability to make their own personal health decisions. If you'd like to contribute, please visit our website at www.ppospc.com/abortionaid. The last but not least, my final action item is for you to take political action. You can sign up with our Community Action Fund, and by signing up, you can learn about upcoming efforts and events focused on this fight to protect abortion, as well as our effort to help elect and re-elect champions for reproductive health care and education. We actually have an event, a virtual event coming up on November 4th called Save Reproductive Freedom, and I'll drop the link in the chat in case you're interested in attending. And again, thank you all so much. Thank you for listening and making this important work a priority. Planned Parenthood appreciates you, and we certainly need you now more than ever. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sadaf. That was a lot of really valuable information in a short amount of time, and I really appreciate you condensing that. Great tips. We put it in the chat. I dropped this in the chat as well. Is there anything else you want us to drop in the chat?
I'm going to go ahead and drop the link for that, the event I mentioned on November 4th.
Great.
And then other than that, I don't believe so. Thank you all. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Sadaf.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.